Hey you all, Jennifer Emberton here again, and I am going to quickly show you how I set up my Google Classwork page. So this is my Google test classroom for training purposes and just kind of showing others how I set up Google Classroom. I'm in the stream page currently, and if you haven't watched, I have a video on how I set up my settings and how I limit or allow the students to post on stream or what I do within that stream page to be more productive. For right now in this video, we're going to talk about classwork. So that is our second tab up here. I'm going to go ahead and click on classwork. And under classwork, you can see I already have some weeks set up. So I have all topics, week 1, week 2, week 3, set up on this particular page. I'm going to delete these and show you how kind of I got to this point. So on classwork, when you very first get to your classwork, it kind of looks like this. So we're going to start fresh. This is where you'll assign work, and it gives you a little instructions and kind of tells you what to do and how to use topics. So I'm going to start out by saying that just like at the beginning of the school year when we're giving our yearly overview of what we're going to do for the year, and we decide how we're going to do our units and how we'll cover the standards or learning targets. Those are all important to think about when you're setting up this framework for your classwork page. So over the years, I have set this up in different ways. And of course, Google Classroom has modified and added additional features to make this easier. So at the very beginning, it was just a place where I would go in and I would add just assignments. They have thankfully made it so much easier to organize by the use of topics now. And so it's easier to take those topics and say, okay, I want to cover this learning target and under this topic, and then just list whatever assignments, formative or summative, that are aligned with it. Or if you don't want to do maybe your topics by units, you could do your topics by learning target, by standard. There are multiple ways you could do it by level, depending on what level your student's at. This year, I asked my kiddos, after seeing several teachers do this several ways, what they preferred, and they said it was easier to follow if it were listed by weeks because they typically know what day it is, even if they don't know what unit we're in. And so I started adding topics by weeks. So I'm going to show you how to do that under the create, and I talk with my hands in these videos. It's kind of the same way I teach. Under this, that you'll start this by clicking on the create, and then we'll go down to the very bottom and we're going to hit topic. And then you can start by labeling it week 1 and then putting in the dates, whatever dates those were. Let's see what dates they were so I can be a little accurate on this. Let's say it was last week when this started, so the 16th through the 20th. So I could type in 16th through 20th, or I could type in 316 through 320. And then I'll just add that week on there. And then I'm going to go to create, and I'll add in my week 2. And whoops, and that might be this week. So this week was 3/23 until 3/27. Okay, so we'll add in that week. Now, notice when it adds in the week that the week 1 goes down and the week 2 is at the top. So what you'll need to do at this point is you will just need to move those around, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so to move these, you simply need to click on the little skinny snowman, is what I call it, and then you just select to move up. And there is an option if there were more than one to move down. So if we created a new topic and we were preparing for next week and we called it week 3, and we did 3:30 through 4:3. Some of y'all are on spring break then. We hit add. Now it's going to give us the option to move down. And then after you move it down, now once we're in the middle, we can move up or down. We'll move down once more. Now, one other thing I do when I'm adding in the weeks, vocabulary is key. Vocabulary, maybe a skill that certain students just haven't mastered yet, and they need to master before they navigate through these weeks. So for additional vocabulary, key vocabulary practice, I always like adding in a topic. And for my students, I will keep this at the very top. But for the purpose of our NTI work, I may decide to move this down and keep it lower. So key vocabulary. And then I'll just add that. And that's a good spot for me to go in and add things like Quizlet or whatever you happen to use, whatever tool you happen to use, maybe even just some sheets that are printable for parents to print off at home, or even just view of the vocabulary words. That way they can go over those with their kiddo. One more thing. When you're creating these, sometimes you'll have drafts. And just a pro tip is create a folder. Whoops. There we go. Okay, create a folder for drafts. And then what you'll do with that folder is I typically, you can keep it at the top or bottom. And if I were to create an assignment and I wasn't quite ready to post it yet, let's see, add or create materials. Yeah, I've got that. So let's say test. And I'm not ready to post this yet, so I don't want to assign. I will go and select topic and put that in my drafts. And then when I exit out, if you notice, it saves it as a draft. And it's under this particular folder. Students cannot see anything that is a draft, and they cannot see any of the topics until they have work under actual assigned work under that topic. So if I were to add students to my class right now, the only thing that they would be able to see is, well, nothing, because I have nothing under any of these. So they wouldn't be able to see any of my topics. It's all as a draft right now. If I were to create an assignment or some type of material, a quiz, I could do a question, I could maybe reuse a post. So if I were to create that assignment and actually assign, right? Okay, under topic, I'm going to go to week 1. Due date. This is important because if your parents are getting emails and summaries, it will tell them when something is past due or missing, or when something's coming up due. So let's say we're going to make this due tomorrow. You can assign a time on there. If you want to decide if it's a formative, summative, whatever your categories are. And this is also good because if I had any students in the class right now, I don't have any, so it just says all students, but I could also select specific students for this one assignment. So it makes modifications so much easier and more discreet because students don't know, who's getting which assignment. So I really like that. There's also a feature to add a rubric, which I'll have another video on later. I add rubrics. You can reuse rubrics. Now this time, instead of saving this as a draft, you can schedule it ahead, save it as a draft, or you can assign. I'm going to go ahead and assign. And what will happen is you will be able to see here the assignment, and it is a little bold color instead of the lighter color. And if students were to go this page, all they would see is week 1 and this assignment. They would not see any of these others until there was actually something under there. Okay, that's how I assign my work or how I organize my work under Classwork. You can check out the other video to see how I use Stream, but this is how I utilize Classwork. I will be talking about Google Class Calendar and the Classroom Drive folder. Those are really cool, but before that, I think I'm going to do a video on what it looks like from the student's view when they open this up, so you guys can take a peek at that. All right, that's all for this one. God bless.